cold and hostile. Underneath that harsh outer shell, though, there's a warm and gooey center. Well, warm by Saiyan standards at least. So let's give it up to the prince of all dads and give him the respect he deserves. You know, until he finally conquers the planet, probably while he laughs maniacally. Here are 10 rules Vegeta's kids have to follow. Don't mess with the hair. Goku and Vegeta have gone through a lot of changes over the years. One thing that hasn't changed, though, is their hairstyles. When Trunks and Vegeta leave the time chamber, he explains that a true Saiyan's hair never changes from the day they are born. This philosophy has evidently been passed on to his kids as well. While future Trunks was playing with Gohan's daughter, he gets noticeably uncomfortable when the kid starts pulling his hair. You might think that this is just for laughs, but you have to remember that this is the man who survived an apocalypse and took down Frieza. He's probably suffered more than any other character in the franchise, but pulling his hair is where he crosses the line. He also apparently has no interest in changing his Jonathan Taylor Thomas haircut in any time period. Always train harder. Vegeta is not the only character who has taken more than their fair share of humiliations over the years. No matter how badly he's defeated, he always decides to train harder so that he'll never be defeated the same way again. You can tell that this has evolved beyond a personal philosophy and into a full-blown parental style as well. This is most evident when we see Kid Trunks confront a hopeless future Trunks. The younger Trunks attacks his older counterpart and gets him to stand back on his own 2 feet. This moment is one of the best for both characters, but it also says a lot about Vegeta. That's why his parenting book, The Prince of All Fathers, is such a bestseller. It's definitely better than Goku's, which is just a giant book filled with hundreds of empty pages. Respect Bulma or else. When you first meet Vegeta, you wouldn't think that this man is good husband material for Bulma. For starters, he's actively trying to conquer her planet by destroying cities. That's not exactly a meet-cute worthy of a Tom Hanks Meg Ryan movie, though that movie would be amazing, and they need to start making it right now. Strangely enough, they are actually one of the better couples in the Dragon Ball series. Vegeta is depicted as a pretty cold-hearted and sad person for most of his tenure in Dragon Ball Z. As one of the few survivors of his planet, it makes sense that he would feel this way. In Dragon Ball Super, however, a lot of that pain seems to be gone. Having a real family has legitimately changed Vegeta in a way that it hasn't necessarily for other characters. This has instilled within him deep respect and love for Bulma. When Beerus attacks her during her birthday party, Vegeta absolutely loses it. This is about the most romantic thing ever by Saiyan standards. He knew full well that Beerus was capable of owning him without any effort. In fact, he'd gone out of his way to treat the god with respect. His respect for the literal god of destruction didn't match up with his respect for his own wife, though. Beerus could have made Vegeta feel small all day with no consequences, but the moment he did that to Bulma, he crossed a line. This attitude has been passed down the generations as well. Trunks nearly lost it on Goku during Dragon Ball Super. Once Bulma struck him on the head, he snapped out of it. By Trunks' standards, that hit probably barely registered as pain. It was more the fact that his mother was the one who told him to knock it off. You can see that Goku's family doesn't really have the same level of respect by comparison. They seem to be genuinely frightened of Chi-Chi, but not particularly respectful. Goku pretty much comes and goes from the house with no regard for how Chi-Chi feels about it. One could only assume that Goten goes to sleep singing Cats in the Cradle to himself softly. No tails. One of the biggest problems at the beginning of the franchise was the fact that Saiyans turned into giant mindless ape monsters. Goku's ape transformations proved problematic many times throughout the first anime. Gohan's transformation caused Piccolo to destroy the moon again. Apparently no one in the Dragon Ball universe cares about tides. The original battle with Vegeta was nearly derailed by Vegeta being able to control his ape form, so it's a noticeable change that the series has more or less ignored the issue since. The whole Super Saiyan thing really took its thunder. What's really strange about it is that Saiyan children like Goten and Trunks are never seen with tails at all. There seem to be 2 schools of thought on why that generation of Saiyans don't have tails. The most obvious one is that Bulma and Chi-Chi wisely decided to have them removed. This procedure is basically the Saiyan version of circumcision now. We can assume that Trunks' tail was probably purple too. No one else in the series has that hair, which makes it really strange that Bulma didn't immediately realize future Trunks was her son. The most obvious answer, though, is that Akira Toriyama just sort of forgot about them. Tails basically exist in the same forgotten Dragon Ball concept purgatory as poor launch. To be a Saiyan is to be prideful. Saiyans may be the most prideful alien race in fictional alien history. By comparison, they make the Klingons from Star Trek look humble and well-reasoned. This seems to be practically encoded into their genes. From Goku to Broly, all Saiyans seem to value their own strength above everything else to a fault. How many times has Goku endangered billions of people just so his personal combat would remain fair as he sees it? Vegeta in this regard is the ultimate Saiyan. His pride dwarfs even that of his father King Vegeta. As an example, when Vegeta was under the thrall of Babidi during Dragon Ball Z, his pride outmatched the wizard's magic. Majin Vegeta resists Babidi's command to destroy the Supreme Kai in order to fulfill his real goal of finally overpowering Goku. There are several times in the series where it seems as though Vegeta is disappointed in his son's lack of pride. By contrast, future Trunks doesn't seem to love the attention power brings as much. He allows his father to take on Perfect Cell, knowing all the while that he has surpassed his father's power level. Vegeta would frequently allow someone else to fight first, but that was only to gauge their power to see if they were worth it. Nappa basically lived as Vegeta's sidekick. He was the Scottie Pippen to Vegeta's Michael Jordan. Vegeta would never allow someone else to potentially have all the glory when he knew he was more powerful. Maybe that Saiyan pride gets a little diluted with human hybrids. Even Gohan seems very different from the pure Saiyans. No one with any pride at all would dress as the Great Saiyaman. Respect the hierarchy. Saiyans aren't all about pride though. Their entire culture is based around a class system that holds power levels above all else. The most powerful Saiyans are the ones that get to rule, while the weaker ones are the workers. This even goes for beings more powerful than them. Despite King Vegeta being so prideful that he probably stares at himself in the mirror for hours, he treated Frieza like a king. Frieza's unbelievable abilities placed him in a complete authority, as did his father's King Cold. Even Vegeta treated him with disrespect, willfully acting as a soldier despite the fact that the monster destroyed his home. The biggest example of this is how he treated Beerus. Goku, a man not raised by Saiyan customs, decided to challenge Beerus immediately. He took on the god of destruction with all of his strength and was easily put down. Vegeta, on the other hand, treated Beerus as if he were an honored dignitary from another country visiting them. Vegeta spends most of the series acting like he's better than all those around him, so seeing him bow to Beerus was shocking. His children do not seem to act with this level of respect though. Trunks especially has too much of his mischievous mother in him. While his father was bowing to the visiting god, Trunks and his pals were trying to look at the Dragon Balls. Sometimes even Saiyan kids just don't listen, no matter how hard you try. Always be cunning. Saiyan custom may dictate that one should show respect to those more powerful, but it absolutely doesn't dictate compliance. Despite Vegeta acting as a loyal soldier to Frieza, he was always plotting against him. His entire life before we met him was a journey to become more powerful so that he could one day overthrow Frieza. Once he thought he'd achieved this power, he rebelled against the Frieza force and went rogue. He may not have achieved his goal, but his son did enough for both of them. Future Trunks made them both into sliced cheese. This innate sense of cunning may be why Trunks is constantly getting into trouble. He gets it honest from his father that authority is not to be trusted. Whether it's entering tournaments meant for adults or listening to his mother, the younger Trunks prefers his own rules to others. Vegeta would probably respect that attitude a lot more if the kid was more interested in world domination than Little Rascal-style hijinks. Sometimes it's really hard to get your kids into the family business. Family time is important. Vegeta seems to have softened quite a bit from his time among the humans. He even takes his family on a vacation complete with ice cream, shopping, and buffets. Sure, the whole thing only came from him lashing out at Trunks for landing a hit during their training, but it's a lot by Saiyan standards. Though Gohan may be the Saiyan who respects family time the most, maybe too much. Seeing as how Goku was missing for most of his childhood, it makes sense that Gohan would pretty much give up being a warrior to be a dad. Future Trunks doesn't really understand this family dynamic though. Obviously, his life of not having a father or a stable world has made a standard family seem foreign to him. This same thing isn't nearly as strange to the younger Trunks. We can presume that he spends a lot of his time in a similar family structure to what Gohan has set up. He probably even goes to see Trunks' school plays, scowling the entire time. Well, as long as Trunks does well in training, he's still a Saiyan prince after all. Surrender is not an option. Say what you want about Vegeta, but he's not a quitter. There have been multiple times in the series where he is shown to be outmatched and decides to keep going anyway. One of the best examples of this is when he went up against Android 18. She dominates him despite the fact that he's now a Super Saiyan. He even realizes that he has no chance of winning but goes all in anyway. His son has a very similar attitude. Trunks watched as the entire population of his planet was wiped out by the androids. They pretty much made Earth a Walking Dead-style wasteland. Instead of giving up though, Trunks goes back to the past and returns with Super Saiyan powers. He finally achieves his goal of destroying the two beings that caused him so much pain. Nothing makes a Saiyan papa prouder than when their son gets to enjoy the defeat of an enemy. Almost makes you want to cry. A warrior goes down as a warrior. Pretty much everyone in the Dragon Ball franchise has lost their life at least once by this point. Few go out in quite as glorious a fashion as Vegeta though. Frieza really got the best of Vegeta during the big showdown on Namek. Vegeta gives a Saiyan Shakespeare monologue summing up the plight of the Saiyans and Frieza's ultimate betrayal as his life leaves him. It's one of the most poignant moments in the entire series. This is really saying something considering how much of a jerk Vegeta had been up to this point. This dramatism applies to his children as well. When Cell does a cheap shot that blasts through future Trunks' chest, Vegeta takes the time to do another great monologue. He clenches his fist like a true Shakespearean